inflation and having the monetary policy, fiscal policy correct and so on, very minimum basic function. Then from there, if the state is still slightly better than that, if its ability is better, then it can become a producer. Okay? So the custodian role means you are not producing anything, or the state is not producing anything, but the second role is the producer, which means that the state can produce social overhead capital. For example, education, health, these are the social overhead. Okay? So a state should produce this overhead capital, and also the state should produce the infrastructure, various types of infrastructure, physical infrastructure, I mean. Okay? But if the state is very weak, then it is better to give the money to the private sector to construct or to build this infrastructure. But if the state has got the capacity, then the state can produce the infrastructure, can undertake the infrastructure investment. Then the third one is the midwifery role, which is, it is not just producing, it is also the helping and the guiding the market. So it is steering, it is assisting, and it is inducing the market. Okay? So that not only the government is producing, government will say that, well, I will produce these things, but I will not intervene in those sectors, but I will help you. Okay, you produce this, you produce that through industrial policy, through encouragement, through subsidies, through financing, and so on. Okay, so the government can steer, and the government can assist these farms so that these the overall rates of return from investment can be higher through government assistance. Okay, and lastly, the husbandry role, which is basically the complementary to this midwifery role, in the sense that it is not just helping the existing market, it is also the creation of the new industry. Okay, the classic example is this the Electronic and Telecommunication Research Institute, Electronic and Telecommunication Research Institute in South Korea. Today's success of Samsung and the Gold Star, which is now called LG. So the current success of the LG and Samsung lies in this ETRI. This is a research institute. Okay? They created this skilled workforce. And this Samsung and this LG and other electronic industry, which tried to imitate and reach the ability of Japan's semiconductor industry, okay? Well, it was made possible only because this state sector, which is ETRI, this public or the government institute, they created the skilled workforce, the engineers, I mean, electronic engineers, let's say. Okay? So the government created these engineers, but they were employed by the private sector, like Samsung and Gold Star. At that time, it used to be called Gold Star, now the LG. Okay? So, but that was creating a new market, like a future-oriented market. So not because they had the objective that yes, we will have to make semiconductor. If the Japan can make semiconductor, then why not you? So they wanted to do that, and that's why they had it. Okay. So then we said that. So what sort of role the state should perform should depend on the. The government should address the market failure first, and also the government should ensure the social equity. Fine. But all things has to be determined by the state capability. You can't expect a weak state to become the midwife, no, because they themselves they're weak, and that's why they cannot assist the market. Okay, so that if the state's capability is higher, only then you can expect the state should guide the market. Okay, for example, like in state in 1970s and so on. So the government under the industrial policy. Okay? So when we say that there should be very much a proactive government to guide the market to industrial policies, that can only happen if the state can reach the level 3. Okay? Because under the item number 1 and 2, possibly the industrial policy will not be significant, will not be able to improve the market mechanism significantly, because the state will be considered still to be quite weak under 1 and 2. So most of the developing countries, of course, now they're at level 2. They produce certain goods and services. So our objective is to improve the state capacity up to level 3 as much as possible. So in that sense, we are not talking about the privatization. Rather, we are talking about the improving the capacity of the government. It is not replacement of the state. It is not withdrawing the state from the economy, rather it is improving their capacity. Okay? So if you can improve their capacity up to level 3, which is the midwifery role, then the market will flourish automatically, because that state will promote the market. So therefore, under the new consensus, they say that no, one of the most important failure of the Washington consensus was that they did not really pay much attention to the state capacity. They say that the state is weak, so you please go away. But the solution would have been, yes, you are weak, then how can we remove your weakness? How can we improve your performance? How can we improve your capacity? Okay? Basically, is there any way to improve this state institution? Or can we say that they are corrupt and that's why you should shut it down? Okay? So it's better to identify the causes of the corruption and to remove or to address those causes and thereby to improve the state capacity so that these state-owned enterprises can perform their role. So which means that if we can improve the state capability, then we may not have to have the privatization in place, because then the state will know that, well, I can perform these functions quite well, and I should leave these functions to the market, and I will just assist them. Like here, I will steer the market, I will assist them, I will use the private sector. So they will know by themselves. But for that, they will have to have this state capability. Okay. Okay. Now the evidence, yes, we know that there is a significant amount of strategic intervention to industrial policy in Asian tigers, particularly in South Korea, Taiwan, and but not that much in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was more market-based. Okay? So although the Asian tiger economies include Hong Kong, but we did not have significant intervention in Hong Kong that much. But in other East Asian countries, there was a significant strategic. It was a strategic intervention. So it was not anywhere. Okay? It is basically picking the winners. Okay? That was their goal. This required a shift in the Washington consensus from this laissez-faire liberalization to the market-friendly approach. So it should be the market. So the state should be market-friendly rather than it's not just the absence of the state. It is rather the market-friendly state that was needed. And in many developing countries, there is a very high cost, for example, in terms of time, effort, and money in doing business. Because some countries it takes 2 months to get all the permissions. In some countries it takes 6 months to get the permission, like environmental permission, then getting the water connection, telecommunication connection, and so on, and all the license and the trade license and so on. In some countries it takes a very long time. So it is quite attractive in the sense that these countries may have cheap labor or they have got many mineral resources. But to start your business, you have to spend a lot of money, a lot of time. Okay? So doing business can be quite expensive, time-wise, effort-wise, and of course the money-wise. In many developing countries, it's because they have got inappropriate regulations which will discourage investment. So it is mostly some countries the regulations are too much. It is over-regulated. So then in general we say that these regulations are inappropriate. Okay? Sometimes you don't trust the foreigners, you don't trust the multinational corporations, so you try to over-regulate it. Okay? But then the multinationals will not go in those countries, or even the domestic investment may not take place. Mainly in the extractive industry, if there is an over-regulation. Okay? So which will ultimately discourage investment. We all know that in East Asian countries, they have got a strong state capacity, a strong state capability, and therefore they could perform this midwifery role. And also, as I said, in South Korea, they did the husbandry role as well, which is the creation of the research institute. So, but still, in these East Asian countries, their ability to respond to the new challenges is crucial for continuing economic success, because we know that although they performed very strongly throughout 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 1990s, but they had a significant financial crisis in 1997. So they failed. The state also, even after having this state capacity, the strong state capability, they failed in 1997. Because their economic, their financial sector, they did not have enough regulatory mechanism to control their financial sector. Okay? So therefore, how quickly they can respond to this new challenges, because the world is much more globalized now. The same institution cannot control these state the same regulatory authorities or the state regulations cannot control the financial sector, because now the financial sector is globalized now. When you look at a particular bank in the UK, you don't just see their portfolio in the UK. You will have to think, if the Greek goes out of Europe, then what will happen to the financial institutions in the UK? Which means how much of your pension fund is invested in Greek banks, and if the Greece goes out of this euro, then there will be a significant devaluation of drachma. Okay? They will go to their old currency. So which means that in terms of your regulation, you have to be also global now. It is not just sufficient to look at your own banks. Okay? You have to have a global approach as well. So that is also, so therefore they should also have more higher ability to address this. And also, we know that in Latin America there is a reform, there is a privatization, but the legal system is not still adequate there. Okay? And also, we know that in the financial market, which is underdeveloped, the privatization was associated with the ineffective corporate governance, which means that the financial sector hampered the privatization in many developing countries. Okay? You privatize your manufacturing sector, but your manufacturing sector cannot work without financial sector. So if your financial sector is regulated or controlled by the state, but your manufacturing activities are privatized, but you do not have enough gain from this type of privatized firm, because the privatized firm will again rely on you, because you control all the banks. So you privatize, but then you control the banks. So where will they get the finance and so on? So you control your finance. So therefore, some of the privatization was quite ineffective because of this underdeveloped financial market in the developing countries. And also, we know that for an effective regulatory regime, we need to address the pricing and the investment issues of basically. Okay? So it is not just the privatization; it is also the pricing mechanism and the investment. Okay? What sort of investment coming into the economy? So the main idea is just changing hands. You cannot really get the outcome. You have to think what sort of pricing will be there after privatization, and what sort of investment is coming through, and so on. Okay, whether it is domestic or it is foreign. Okay? And lastly, today's high